The Supreme Court ruled this morning that Americans no longer have a constitutional right to abortion. The decision has overturned Roe versus Wade, eliminating protective rights which have been in place for nearly 5 decades. Thanks for joining us here at the Courier Journal. I'm Kirby Adams, along with senior investigative reporter Debby and our political reporter Morgan Watkins, to talk more about what this means to those of us who live in the state of Kentucky. And so, Debby, let's start with you. What did the Supreme Court say today, and what does that mean for Kentucky?
Well, I brought a visual aid. Here's the...
And it's quite a visual aid. 213
pages of documents that were released, including dissents. It was a 6-3 opinion by the Supreme Court, with the conservatives in the majority, obviously, and they struck down the constitutional right to abortion that was established with Roe v. Wade in 1973. The immediate impact in Kentucky is an immediate end to access to abortion, because Kentucky has what's called a trigger law on the books. That was enacted in 2019, and it said at the time that should Roe v. Wade struck down as it was today, there is no constitutional right to abortion in Kentucky federally. So that means it has to suspend all services as of like 10:30 this morning. That would be the end, unless opponents can find some way to challenge it, but I think their options are limited.
And Kentucky is one of how many states that had this trigger law in effect?
Well, there are about 26 states altogether, largely Republican-led or considered red states, that have some form of presumptive ban in place or ready to go in place. I think around 13 states have trigger laws. Not all are immediate, but Kentucky's is immediate.
And Morgan, I'm going to get it to you in just a moment, but I'm curious, and some people that are watching us right now may be curious as well, where will abortion be available, and then how will someone go about finding abortion?
Well, abortions will be available in states that have elected to preserve them and not outlaw them, including Illinois would be the closest to Kentucky. However, most of the states surrounding Kentucky, such as Missouri, Indiana, Tennessee, Ohio, are all looking to, they either have laws in place to stop abortion, or they will be moving to do so fairly soon, according to their officials, or have mechanisms to do that. So it means Kentuckians would have to go fairly far away, apart from Illinois, to get an abortion, possibly New York, California.
So I think that it begs the question then, who is this going to most impact?
Well, in covering this over the years, I've been told repeatedly that the impact falls on low-income women, disproportionately on women of color, women who maybe have lower-paying jobs or less access to health care outside their immediate environment. The irony is that women of means could always get an abortion, and probably will. They'll just have to fly to another state.
When you're talking about the travel to another state,
right.
That's a huge issue.
Well, that's an expense, yeah, and you've got to take time off work. I know that's not always easy for people that have hourly jobs. They may not want to explain why they're having to take time off work. They may have children to take care of. So, yeah, it's definitely an obstacle for less affluent individuals seeking abortion.
There is an abortion medication that can be acquired online.
Yep, that's become an increasingly popular method of terminating a pregnancy. You can use the medication up to 10 weeks of a pregnancy. It now accounts for about half of all abortions in Kentucky and the United States. And the FDA has allowed access to the abortion pills. You take a couple of pills several days apart to end a pregnancy. They've allowed access to it by mail. You can do a telehealth visit with a provider, and then they can send you the medication to use at home. However, Kentucky has a law currently under challenge that bans mail shipment of medication, and it also requires an in-person visit to a physician. So that is going to be hard for Kentucky women to navigate.
So it wouldn't be a case where you could do a telehealth visit with a provider in the state of Illinois, for instance. But
no, because that's regulated by state law, and what the advocates for this have told me is that if you drive to Illinois and get within state limits, then they are allowed to have a telehealth visit with you in that state a provider is, and give you the medication by mail, or some kind of carrier service ship it to you. But you have to get within the state to seek it and have your appointment.
Well, thank you for explaining that, and a good portion of this. That's something that if you went through all of that before noon, I'm amazed. Morgan, let's move over to you now, and then political side of all of this. So Kentucky is one of the states with this trigger law, and we have Mitch McConnell, who is behind a lot of that. How does this all fall into place?
Well, so this ruling takes away the federal constitutional right to an abortion, like nationwide, as Debby mentioned, and that means it now is up to the states. So in Kentucky, where Republicans won control of the state House of Representatives for the first time in 2016, well, the first time in almost a century in 2016, that gave Republicans total control of the legislature. And for the last 5 years, since they've been in total control, they've passed abortion restrictions, one of which was the trigger ban that now has instituted a near total prohibition on abortion in the state. So that's a direct consequence of people voting Republicans into office in the legislature, where they now have supermajority control. And this is the direct impact that you're seeing of this, because anti-abortion laws has been a major priority of the Republicans in the state legislature. Mitch McConnell has been credited with, working over the years to help make this a more Republican-friendly state in terms of elections. So I think that it's pretty fair to say that, while he isn't solely responsible for that, he certainly played a role in, helping hasten, I guess, the Republican electoral successes that the GOP has seen in this state. The big thing, though, is, Senator McConnell, you could argue that he definitely made this possible in terms of a Supreme Court that today has struck down Roe v. Wade. He made what he said was the most consequential decision, that he'd ever made in his career, when he decided to hold open a Supreme Court seat during the presidential election year of 2016 after a justice died. That turned that into an election issue, and future President Trump at that time said, hey, if I win, I'm going to pick justices who would be willing to overturn Roe v. Wade. And that he won, and that's exactly what he did. And Senator McConnell used his power during the Trump administration as Senate Majority Leader. He was basically in charge of overseeing the Supreme Court confirmations of the justices that Trump nominated. And he managed that process, and he made sure that they all got confirmed. That included, managing the confirmation of Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, despite him facing very public accusations of sexual assault. He stood by Kavanaugh through all of that, and Kavanaugh got confirmed. And then that included, in 2020, literally less than a month before the election, leading the confirmation of Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who turned out to be, basically you have the 3 Trump justices joined the 3 justices who already were on the court and had been nominated by Republican presidents, and those 6 today banded together and gave us this decision. So no question that this Supreme Court, this decision by that court, is now a part of Senator McConnell's legacy.
When we,
I should say he's proudly claiming it in a press release today, a statement about it, saying it's been the outcome of years of work and of himself and others who are opposed to abortion.
Yeah, like how many years do we think this has been in the works with him?
Well, how long has McConnell been in the Senate?
85, he won in his first election, 1984.
Okay.
Voted for all of the conservative justices, that are currently on the court, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, who wrote this opinion overturning Roe, John Roberts, and then obviously the 3 Trump nominees that he had a much more direct role in supporting.
And the actual opposition to Roe v. Wade dates back to the decision itself in '73. That was when Kentucky Right to Life, around that time Kentucky Right to Life was organized and became a lobbying force in Kentucky, and has been pretty effective in Frankfurt, especially at passing laws aiming to either restrict or eliminate abortion access.
I believe that this afternoon at 4:30 there is a rally taking place.
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit more about that?
The American Civil Liberties Union of Kentucky, which supports abortion rights, and Planned Parenthood, which also supports abortion rights, is planning a rally on the front steps of the federal courthouse at 4:30. I'm not sure what exactly they plan to do other than express dissatisfaction with the decision today and maybe talk about what things they think they can do going forward.
Well, at this point in time, prior to 10 o'clock this morning, where were women able to get abortions in the state of Kentucky?
We have 2 providers here in Louisville, and they're the only providers in the state of Kentucky. They've gradually been shrinking over the years. And so Planned Parenthood offers abortions part-time. I believe it's 1 day a week. And EMW, Women's Surgical Center, has been around for 40 years. It offers them, basically, that's its main business. It is a full-time abortion clinic.
So those are basically, well, Planned Parenthood wouldn't be dark today, but because they provide other services. But with the abortion clinic, it's the full-time. Would that just have shut down today, or?
Well, it's had to suspend offering abortions. My understanding is they intend to stay in operation and see what other services they can provide and maybe what lies ahead for them.
I imagine that we have our photographers down there and reporters spanned out across the city and perhaps the state. You can read more about this decision as we continue to cover the story at courierjournal.com and, of course, in our paper product. Thank you so much for joining us and explaining more about how this decision today affects the people who live in the state of Kentucky. Appreciate your time. And we appreciate your time as well. Thanks for joining us.